Cornstarch. Can you use it to thicken a sauce or a gravy? Oh yes, if you make a cornstarch slurry, it's a quick and easy, tasteless, gluten-free way to thicken a sauce, gravy, soup, or stew. But what is a cornstarch slurry? How do you use it to thicken a sauce? How do you make it? Well, stick around and let me show you how. Welcome to the Sauce and Gravy channel. This is Johnny Mac and we're going to dive into a sauce thickening technique. How to make a cornstarch slurry. Buckle up, let's go. So what is a cornstarch slurry? Well, it's cornstarch that's mixed with water or a cooking liquid in order to thicken a sauce, soup, stew, or a gravy. So how much cornstarch do you use to make the cornstarch slurry? Well, there's a lot of commonly used ratios of cornstarch to cooking liquid out there. It's no exact science, it's really just personal preference or cooking style, but a commonly used ratio would be 1:1, so 1 part cornstarch to 1 part cooking liquid. It's really thick. Some people use a 1 part cornstarch to 2 parts cooking liquid. It's a little bit thinner, a little bit easier to incorporate into that sauce. And then they also even go all the way up to 1 part cornstarch, 4 parts cooking liquid. It tends to disperse through the sauce really evenly. It's just really personal preference, but an all-around good cornstarch slurry ratio would be 1 part cornstarch, 2 parts cooking liquid. Let's go ahead and make a cornstarch slurry. This is going to be a little bit of a thick recipe, kind of like a glaze or a basting glaze where it's a really sticky sauce. So we're using a little bit more than a 1:1 ratio. We have 3 tablespoons of cornstarch and 4 tablespoons of water. Pour the water into the cornstarch, take a spoon, mix it up, make sure that it's well dissolved. You can use any type of cooking liquid that you like to make the cornstarch slurry. You don't have to use water. So if you're using a beef stock, you can use a beef stock to make the cornstarch slurry. The slurry can be made ahead of time or it can be made while you're reducing that sauce down or letting it come to a boil. So why would you want to thicken a sauce with a cornstarch slurry? Well, there could be a couple different reasons. Could be time. So you just want a quick and easy way to thicken a sauce without having to spend a lot of time. You've got your cooking liquid, you've reduced it down, it's to the right taste. So all that you have to do is pour a little bit of the cornstarch slurry into it, bring it to a boil, and bam, you're ready to go. Or it could be that you're looking for a gluten-free way to thicken a sauce. So a way to thicken a sauce without flour. A cornstarch slurry is a perfect way to do that. Another great reason to use a cornstarch slurry to thicken a sauce or a gravy is because it's tasteless. It brings no taste to the sauce. The sauce has come to a boil, so now it's time to add our cornstarch slurry. The cornstarch tends to settle at the bottom of the slurry, so give it a quick mix before you put it into the sauce. When using a cornstarch slurry to thicken a sauce or a gravy, it's a good idea to pour in a little bit at a time. So I've poured in half here. I'm stirring it up, incorporating it into the sauce. Bring it back to a simmer. If it's the desired thickness, good, you can take it off heat. If it's not, go ahead and pour in a little bit more. Then bring it back to a simmer. If it's the desired thickness, you're ready to go. So how much cornstarch would you use in order to thicken up a sauce or a gravy? Well, if you're looking at a recipe and it calls for the use of flour to thicken up that recipe, you would use half as much cornstarch as you would flour. So say it calls for 2 tablespoons of flour, you would just use 1 tablespoon of cornstarch to thicken up that sauce or gravy. Now a general rule of thumb, for 1 cup of sauce, if you're trying to make a thin sauce, you would use half of a tablespoon or 3.75 grams of cornstarch. For a medium thick sauce, you would use 1 tablespoon or 7.5 grams, and then for a thick sauce, you would use 1.5 tablespoons or 11.25 grams of cornstarch to thicken up that sauce or that gravy. Alright, so we've put our second dose of the cornstarch slurry into the sauce. We're starting to bring it to a simmer. You can see the sauce is starting to get thicker and thicker. That cornstarch and that cornstarch slurry is starting to activate inside that sauce. It's becoming thicker. This is what we're looking for, a nice sticky glaze. When you use a cornstarch or a cornstarch slurry to thicken a sauce, once it's to the desired thickness, you don't want to reduce it down any further. If you cook the cornstarch for too long, it starts to lose its thickening power. So what's the secret behind making a lump-free sauce with a cornstarch slurry? Well, let me walk you through this orange dessert sauce recipe to show you how. Alright, so this cornstarch slurry recipe is a great example of how you can use a wide variety of cooking liquids in order to make a cornstarch slurry. The secret way to make a lump-free sauce with a cornstarch slurry is whenever you make that slurry, you use a cool or a room temperature liquid. If you tried to pour cornstarch directly into a hot sauce that was simmering down, then it would definitely just clump right up. Or if you tried to use a hot liquid to make a cornstarch slurry, that would clump up. So use a cool or room temperature liquid. For this orange dessert sauce recipe, we used a 1:2 ratio for the cornstarch slurry. So we used half a teaspoon of cornstarch to 1 teaspoon of room temperature orange juice. In this dessert sauce, it's a really thin sauce and it doesn't need to be reduced down. So we put the cornstarch slurry into the sauce, brought it to a simmer, took it off heat, and we're ready to go. And one quick tip whenever you're working with a cornstarch slurry on a thin sauce is whenever the sauce is hot, it'll look really, really thin. But whenever it starts to cool down, it'll start to thicken up really nicely. Thanks for watching the Sauce and Gravy channel. I hope that you found this how to make a cornstarch slurry recipe helpful. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below. And don't forget to share this recipe with your friends, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and to remember as always, to live, love, and make gravy.